Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Ika Nurfajariah and I am from English Literature B 2019, and here I am to present my research proposal with the title An Analysis of Figurative Language of Kalindada as the Oral Literature of Modern Ethnic Society. Before I start my presentation, let me thank to my supervisors, which are Iskandar SPD MAD PhD and then Dr. Abdul Halim M. Hom, and also to my examiners. Okay, next slide. Language is an important thing in our life. According to Kerap and Smaradiva 2005, page 1, there are two kinds of meaning of language. The first one is language as a tool for steady communication between members of public in the form of sound symbols generated by the tool said. And then the second one is language is a system of communication that uses symbols, vocals, or speech sounds that are arbitrary. There is a scientific study of language where we can learn about many aspects of human language, including sounds, words, sentences, and it is called linguistics. Linguistics is the scientific study of language. According to Abrams, 1999, page 40, linguistics is the systematic study of elements of language and the principles governing their combination and organization. In linguistics, we can learn about phonology, morphology, syntax, and then semantics. Semantics is the study of meaning in language as a branch of linguistics. According to Lee, 1969, page 5, states the aim of semantics is to explain and describe meaning in the natural language. There are two meanings in semantics. They are literal meaning and non-literal meaning. Literal meaning based on actual words, or we can call it the real meaning, while non-literal meaning is the unreal meaning. The non-literal meaning in language, it is called figurative language. According to Ogunsiji 2000, language may be said to work in two broad dimensions, namely literal and figurative dimensions. The literal dimension of language deploys words in their usual and obvious sense without any additional suggestions. On the other hand, the figurative dimension deals with the suggestive or connotative use of language. Hence, Ogunsiji 2000 affirms that if one writes without using figures of speech, one's speech or writing will be dry. Figurations include simile, metaphor, personification, alliteration, assonance, paradox, oxymoron, and etc. There are some research that have talked about Kalindada, religiosity and romanticism in Mandar's love poem text, stylistic analysis by Nirwana Rashid, Mafiuddin, Irna Fitriana on 2021. Language style on the Kalindada poem, introduction of stylistic study of Mandar regional literature by Yassil M. Darwish on 2017. There haven't any research talk about figurative language in Kalindada, so I will do the research about it. Next slide is research goals. Research questions. The first one is, what kinds of figurative language that usually found in Kalindada? Why Mandar ethics makes Kalindada as their media to convey moral and religious value in their cycle society? And then how Mandar ethnic society do this Kalindada? And then next, objectives of the research. The first one is describe the figurative language that used in Kalindada to explore the reason why Mandar ethnic society use Kalindada to convey moral and religious value on their cycle society, and then to examine the way Mandar ethnic society do Kalindada as their tradition. And then significance of the research. This is the first research talk about Kalindada, the figurative language of Kalindada. There are so many people that haven't known they haven't know about Kalindada, although they are from Mandar ethnic. This research will provide the benefits for the reader to make people know more about Kalindada as the traditional poetry. Traditional poetry, which known as one of the culture of Mandar ethnic in South Sulawesi. Okay, next slide. On this slide is my background. The study will focus on using theory of Ogunseji 2000 about figurative language as a form of picture language and developed by some theories in each type of figurative language. Okay, next slide is my theoretical framework. Okay, first I talk about the theory of language, and then I talk about linguistic, semantic, figurative language, and in figurative language I use the theory of Ogunseji theory 2000, and then in figurative language there are 6 types. They are oxymoron, paradox, metaphor, assonance, simile, and alliteration. And then I also talk about the figurative language of poetry, and then the traditional poetry I talk about is Kalindada, traditional poetry from Mandar ethnic, and then I also talk about the moral and religious value of Kalindada. And the next slide is my research design. The study used a descriptive exploratory qualitative research approach. Descriptive method of qualitative research emphasis is on describing rather on conceptualizing or interpreting, according to Smith and Wool 2012. Okay, next slide is source of the data. The first source is I took from YouTube, or of course there are so many videos or speech about Kalindada on YouTube, and then the second one is Mandar Society, and honestly I also from Mandar ethnic, so I also ask about Kalindada to my family in Mandar, and then the last is journals, of course. Yeah, I also use journals of Google Scholar. Okay, next slide is procedures of data collection. The first, I watch the Kalindada on YouTube, and then I identify the kinds of figurative language they use, and then collect by writing all of Kalindada speech that has been watched, and then classify them by seeing the kind of figurative language they use, and then comprehend the meaning each of the sentences. Okay, next slide. Techniques of data analysis. According to Miles Huberman and Saldana 2004 and 2018, data condensation is a process where data is selected, then sorted, simplified, and abstracted from visual and audio data into written data. And then the second one, the data display, is the data presentation in analytical way. In this stage, I, as the researcher, will organize all of the gathering data before making the conclusion of final data. And then the last, conclusions cannot occur until data is collected, determined both by quantity of field note documents, coding and storage, as well as the collection process used, the sophistications of the researcher, and the time limit to be achieved. And then the last is the main references that I use: Ogunseji 2000 and Yobo E 2012. Thank you for listening. Okay, that's all my research presentation. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.